Thank you for coming. This is another in a series of talks I've been presenting about those things I wish I had heard 40 years ago. It would have made my Jewish learning ever so much more comfortable, ever so much easier. Today I'm going to talk about Kabbalah, about Jewish spiritual tradition, which we have two things that we know about it. There's a tradition that one doesn't begin the learning of this until one is 40 years old. And the other is that it's very complicated. This is an illustration I took down from the internet this morning. So complicated, Hebrew words, things that are difficult to pronounce, lines going everywhere. My desire today is really to show you that it doesn't have to be that complicated, and to explain to you why you really do need to be close to 40 years old to really begin the study of it. There's a famous statement by one of our great spiritual teachers, Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav. He says, "Kol ha'olam kulo geshet sama'od v'ha'ikar lo lefachet klal." All the world is just a narrow bridge, and above all is not to fear at all. The whole world's a very narrow bridge, but don't be afraid. Now, imagine that you were in that learning session, and then you asked the teacher afterwards the most profound question. You asked, "Rabbi, how narrow is that bridge?" And the rabbi would respond, "The bridge is as narrow as a tightrope, as narrow as a tightrope." And then you say, "Well, how is it that I can walk out on a tightrope and not be afraid at all?" So I'm going to put that bridge here, right here. There's that bridge. See that little point? That point is the bridge. Except you're looking at the bridge, this way. Not this way, but you're looking through the wire this way. That's how narrow that bridge is. And let's say you were standing on that bridge. And here is you standing on that bridge. Well, how do you keep balance? I suggest that as soon as you were standing on that bridge, you put your arms out like this. It would be even better if you had a long balance pole. You've seen tightrope walkers. If you have a long balance pole, don't try this at home. You have a weight on this side and a weight on that side, and you can stand on that very narrow bridge pretty securely. Now, if you are in the first decade of your life, you're approaching 10 years old, you're mostly concerned with your physical body, learning how to use it. And you're learning how to maintain balance. Ever seen a kid walking, on a curb, on a railing? Well, that's the stage of development. The kid is walking there and the arms are out like this, and you're walking down that curb, one foot in front of the other. And as you learn this and as you master your body, this is where you're taking your risks in the physical world. This is where the exposure is. If the curb is too high, the exposure is greater, and you don't want to stand too high. But if it's too low, you can learn to do it. And the more you learn to do it, the higher you can go. Now, let's say we have this person on the tightrope, and you reach into yourself now and take out another person and put that person on top of the first one. You've seen this in the circus. So you have a tightrope walker standing on top of a tightrope walker. Well, this tightrope walker up here will need a balance beam also. Have you ever seen this in the circus? Yes. Okay, but this is as if you're reaching into yourself and you're taking out the next 10 years of development. Now, what is the risk-taking in that 10 years? You've already learned how to manage your body and walk on a curb like this. That's not the great risk-taking. The next risk-taking is emotional. You're going to be calling up a girl or a boy for a date. You're going to be risking yourself in the emotional world. I don't know if you're at all like me. I remember the heaviest thing I ever had to lift when I was 16 years old was the telephone to call a girl and see if she would go out with me. That was risk-taking, let me tell you. Now, here, the balance beam is different. The balance beam here is, how do I see myself? I might see myself as I begin to lift up that phone. Who am I that this person would go out with me? Who am I? I mean, I'm nothing. I wear glasses, I'm only this tall, I'm not that attractive, I'm like nothing. When I think about the whole field of people out there, there's so many of them, I am so tiny, the earth is so big, I'm just on a small solar system, I'm in a galaxy at the remote end of the universe, I'm nothing. I'm like a puff of breath that could be blown away in a moment. Well, that part of me is never going to pick up the phone. So I think over here, on the other hand, I wasn't that bad on the soccer team. I can do this and that. I was in class. I can make a good impression. I can create things. The things that I create go out forever. I've written poems that I've posted up on the internet. I have a Facebook presence. I've got 500 friends. I am the center of my own world. I am this big. Well, the truth is, I am not that great. And the truth is, I'm not this small. I'm somewhere in between. And I can find a point of balance. And that point of balance is right here. So over here is where I sense how tiny I am as over against how big the world is. Over here I sense the effect that I can make that goes on for generations and generations. And then I find a place of balance between here, and I put that right over here. And I begin to go through life. Another 10 years goes by. I'm in my 20s now. Risk-taking, I've learned how to make those phone calls. In fact, maybe I've already found the love of my life. In fact, maybe I'm already married. In fact, up here, maybe I already have children. Maybe up here, I am already getting my degrees, my master's degrees, my doctorates. Up here, I'm already in the business world. Now, how do I function up here? This is where risk-taking is concerned. Down here, it was making a phone call. Down here, it was walking on a curb. Up here, it's, I have risk-taking. I'm going to give my thesis to my faculty advisor. I have children I have to supervise and help grow up. How do I structure my creative energies in such a way as to establish balance? If I'm raising children, sometimes I have to come down on them like a ton of bricks, to make sure that the behavior is safe. Sometimes I see they're hurting and I have to come down with compassionate embrace. How do I find a balance between those things? If I'm an artist, how much do I do in straight lines and how much do I outline? How much do I put in gentle colors and play with texture? All these things have to be questioned. So on this side, I have structure. I have coming down like a ton of bricks if necessary, being judgmental. Over on this side, I would say I can be completely compassionate. If I'm a teacher, do I go into a classroom and lay down the law and say this is the way things will be? And then can be compassionate and considerate inside that structure. And this is the way I operate. So there has to be a balance between these two extremes. Okay? And then this balance beam is over here. It's as if now I'm 3 people high on the tightrope. I have my physical body, my emotional body on top of that, and then on top of that one, I have my creational body, my intellect, my where I create things in the world, where I supervise. And by this, I'm approaching the end of my 20s, and I'm entering my 30s. Now, it may be by the time I get into my 30s and approaching the age of 40, I know how to handle all this. Now I begin to wonder what it's all for. I begin to wonder how all of this is put together and why it is. I begin to recognize that, I have intuition about some things, but other things I have to learn step by step. That there is a way of thinking and processing thinking. Now, in my 20s, I didn't think about this. In my teens, I didn't think about this. And certainly when I was 10 years old walking on a curb, I didn't think about this. But as I'm approaching 40, I begin to realize that there's a fourth of me. This is my physical body standing on the tightrope. This is my emotional. This is my creational, if you like. And up here, there'd be a spiritual body. So this might be intuition, and this might be intellect. This might be insight snap, just like that. I can see how to get from here to there. Here, I know that there must be a path, but I have to reason it out. And then there's a balance point between them. And then I have all of these balance beams standing right here on this narrow bridge. So imagine now, there are 4 people, one on top of the other, all of them you, but each one operating in a different world. So my physical body on the tightrope, I take one out, put it on my shoulders, I take another out. What a circus this is. And then a 4th one out. Now notice what would happen. If this balance beam should move, this one would have to move. Yes? If this one would move, then this one would have to move. So anytime you have a movement in one balance beam, all the others have to move. Everything is in motion all the time. So there's a relationship between this, and how that stands with this, and 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 this. And so you have all these things moving all the time. But what it really is a 10-year-old, a 20-year-old, a 30-year-old, a 40-year-old, one on top of the other, physical, emotional, creational, spiritual, stretching out as far as you can go to maintain balance in all those worlds. And that's how you walk on a narrow bridge. Now what I can do, I can go to the internet and download something that looks like this. And it has all these Hebrew words on it, and all those lines and such, and it all looks very mysterious. But what I've just given you is a chart of growing up, reaching the age of 40, reaching maturity in all the worlds of existence, and how to maintain balance. And so that's just as Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav says, all the world is just a narrow bridge. And what you have to learn is how not to be afraid at all. And how do you not be afraid at all? When you're on a narrow bridge, whether it's physical, emotional, creational, spiritual, have a balance beam that goes out as far as possible in each of the worlds. Thank you.